Well, Mike, shortly before 6 a.m. Tuesday, Japan Standard Time, many people in Japan received what's called the J alert that was set up to ensure that they're notified when something like this happens. We understand that a ballistic missile was fired from the west coast of the DPRK near Pyongyang, the capital there. It went over Hokkaido, the island there in North Japan, and landed in the sea some 2,700 kilometers from where it was launched. According to Japan's state broadcaster NHK, the missile broke into 3 pieces before being launched. Now, this is the 3rd time that a DPRK missile has flown over Japan. The last time was back in 2009. We know that the South Koreans were closely watching the situation. They said they were preparing for some sort of launch because their satellite images showed showed some movement, they said, at the Pyongyang test site there in the DPRK. So they were warning about this hours before it even happened. We have to remember that over the weekend, the DPRK tested or launched 3 short-range missiles. These went significantly further, of course, and there was some response both from the U.S. and from South Korea as well as from Japan. Now, the DPRK had sent a notice to the United Nations Security Council saying that things are reaching a tipping point. This, of course, is happening as the U.S. and South Korea are conducting joint drills there in South Korea. Now in their 2nd week, they're due to close in just a couple of days. But this is a moment of perceived significant tension and a lot of close monitoring happening now both in Japan and South Korea. We understand that the South Korean President Moon Jae-in has called an emergency meeting of his National Security Council on Tuesday to address the situation.
Rowie, this weekend, the U.S. Secretary of State was talking about diplomacy. What's happening on the diplomatic front?
That's right, and he sort of praised the DPRK for being responsive, for showing some restraint. And just days before that, Donald Trump, the U.S. president, said that he believed the DPRK and its leader, Kim Jong-un, respected the USA by not responding or following through on some of the threats that they had issued earlier in the last few weeks. In terms of diplomacy, there is still signs of possible movement towards dialogue. And the reason you have to remember is that we're coming up on October, we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of really the peak in positive relations between the North and South. And we're also coming up on a holiday that is observed both in the DPRK and in South Korea. And it's during that time that you usually see gestures of good will. So in the context of what's happened in the last few days, this is indeed another move by the DPRK, one that will be seen as a flagrant violation of the UN Security Council's unanimous resolution. But in the larger context, this is seen as another step, another part of a process that really has ups and downs, and we'll have to watch which way it goes, Mike.
Yeah, we sure will. Rowie Ruttenberg from our newsroom, thanks so much. Japan issued alerts as the missile approached. It urged citizens in the northern part of the country to take shelter. The missile landed in the sea east of the northern island of Hokkaido. Japan is protesting this launch and says it is a clear violation of UN resolutions.
This ballistic missile appeared to fly over our territory. It is an unprecedented, serious, and grave threat to our nation.